Great.
Welcome everybody. Warm greetings and welcome to this webinar. My name is Sanjeev Garg and I'm your trainer today, and I'll be talking about Agile Manifesto and principles. As I can see that we have 6 participants at this point in time. So I'm starting on like today's agenda. Today I'll be talking about Agile Manifesto, and also I'll be talking about what are the 12 principles in Agile. Okay. As you can see on your screen, the Agile Manifesto was actually written in the month of Feb 2001, and it was actually drafted and finally published by 17 professionals, of course from the IT field. They sat together and they tried coming up something which is applicable to all the flavors of Agile. And you can see on the two sphere, Kanban, Mike, Arian, these are the people who actually sat together, did some kind of a brainstorming and then came up with the Agile Manifesto. Now, there are 4 key values, like when we talk about Agile. The first one is individual interactions over process and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and the last one is responding to change over following a plan. Now, these 4 statements are the heart of Agile. Now, when I say Agile, it could be Scrum, it could be Lean, it could be Kanban, or it could be extreme programming. These 4 key values are somewhere or other applicable to all the 4, all the other Agile flavors. Now, before I go to the next slide, let me share one thing to all of you. Now, this is based on my interaction with a lot of people during the last few years. Whenever I would conduct a training session on Agile, few things which came up from the participants, from different technologies or like different domain area. People who are actually new to Agile, or maybe they know a bit about Agile. There are certain myths which are associated with Agile. So this is basically, and I'm sharing, which came up as a result of my interaction with a lot of people in the past. Myth number 1, people think that there is no scope of processes, there is no scope of guidelines, there is no scope of standard while we are executing a project using Agile methodology. So what basically they're saying, that Agile is something which you just start executing the project. You don't care about the policies or procedures which are at the organizational level, or there are no guidelines or no standards. That is myth number 1. The second one which came up, people think that when we talk about Agile methodology, we don't do any documentation. I mean, we just get the requirement from the customer, we start writing the code, we test it, and we deliver it to the customer. So there is no detailed documentation, or maybe there is some documentation, but actually that does not serve any purpose because it is actually not written at a very, very macro level. That is myth number 2. Another one, which is in fact, a very interesting one, which people, so many times they would talk about, that while you are executing a project on Agile, any change in requirement coming in from the customer end, that is always welcome. So if supposing in the beginning, if you got say 20 requirements from the customer and you are halfway through the project, and when you are halfway through the project, the customer comes back to you and he says that, okay, the first 5 requirements are obsolete, now I am giving you a new set of requirements, and since we are executing the project using Agile methodology, so we will accept it. That is myth number 3. And last one is, as far as customer is concerned, whatever he says, I mean, we always act like a yes man to the customer. I mean, in case he is talking about the requirement change, or maybe he is not happy with the deliverable, or there could be hundreds of other reasons. So in case of Agile, we act like a yes man to the customers. Anything and everything coming in from the customer end, we always say yes and we accept it. Now these are all myths. Now I'll come to the second slide, which you can see on your console. The first slide, it was talking about the 4 key values, which is written down there. And on the right-hand side, you have a different set of things. Now, the meaning of this manifesto, the meaning of this, 4th statement, while we are executing a project using any Agile methodology, what we are saying that we will give more preference to the people and to the interaction over process and tools. So, if a project is there on Agile, surely there would be processes, there would be standards, there would be tools. But we will give more preference to the individual, to the people, because it is actually the people who are working on the project. The requirements are coming from the people. Okay, so we will give more preference to the people, we will give more preference to the interaction over process and tools. And again I am repeating, process and tools are there. Okay, but our first preference would be individual and interaction. Second statement is working software over comprehensive documentation. Now, I have seen a lot of projects, during the past, wherein we got the requirement from the customer and we spent 6 months, and finally, what we delivered a solution to the customer which was not 100% done, which was not 100% complete, but yes, our documentation was absolutely fantastic. We were able to capture all the screenshots. We were able to capture, all the, relevant things with regards to whether it is QA testing or it is UAT or it is functional testing or it is system testing. So our documentation was immaculate. The only thing which was missing was, the system. System was not in a working condition. So what Agile says that our first preference is to give a system which would work in their production environment. That is our first preference, because that is what will give the value to the customer. Documentation is okay. Documentation is also very, very important. But then you imagine a situation that you are, say, you are at a ATM of a bank and you want to withdraw the cash. Now here the person who is actually using his ATM card, for him, documentation doesn't mean anything to him. What he basically wants, the moment he inserts the card and then he keys in his password and then he selects whether he wants to deposit some money or he wants to withdraw the money, that thing should be done in a perfect manner. So the second statement is working software should be our #1 priority. Once that requirement is fulfilled, then of course, if the time is there, we will spend some time documenting, the know-how of the system. The third one is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Now, in traditional project management, wherein, we start working on a project after the statement of work is signed by, the customer as well as by the vendor, then we start working on that particular engagement. Now, the SOW is very detailed in nature. It talks about the scope of the project. It talks about what are the deliverables. It talks about, the resource rate. It talks about a lot of other things. And during the course of the project, in case if we see that there are certain deviations, we just talk to the customer, having that copy of contract in our hand, that this is what we had agreed, in the beginning, and now you are deviating from the path. But while we talk about Agile, now here also we have a contract. Here also we have a statement of work. Here also we have the scope of the project, and everything is well written down there in the contract. But then we believe more in customer collaboration. We believe more in customer delight. So if a customer is paying me some X amount of dollars to me, and in case if he is not getting back something which would help him in delighting his customer, it is absolutely useless. So the third value is that we will try to collaborate. We will try to help the customer rather than always talking in contract, that this is what is written in the contract and this is out of the scope or this is in the scope. The last one is responding to change, following a plan. Now, I assume that all of you have a good amount of experience in IT. In any traditional project management methodology, when the requirements are signed off by the customer, and after that, any change in requirement which comes from the customer, the immediate reaction of the project manager or maybe technical lead or maybe the delivery manager that we will not accept it, okay, because it is out of the scope. We don't even try looking at this change, and try to see if the change is really something, in the absence of which the end result would be of no use to the customer. We upfront reject it, okay. But Agile is, about flexibility, okay. So here in Agile, we would respond to the changes. Of course, it doesn't mean that if customer is talking about some change in requirement, when the project is about to, complete, we will accept it. Of course, we will do the due diligence. We will evaluate the impact of that change on the cost, on the schedule, on the scope. We will do all that thing. But before that, we will try to see what basically they are asking for. Okay. So, in a nutshell, this manifesto is, it's talking one very important thing, which is coming out very, very clearly, that Agile is about, the collaboration. Agile is about the flexibility. Agile is not about, that you acting as a person who is very rigid or, something kind of adamant. Agile is not about that. Okay. So Agile is about that. It is always, the case when we are working on the business requirement document, or when the contract was signed with the customer. At that point of time, the requirements were evolving. Okay. So even the customer was not very, very clear about maybe, the lot of things. So the contract was signed at a time where the clarity on the requirement was not 100%. It was maybe 60% or maybe 70%. So keeping that scenario in mind, Agile, what it proposes, that we agree that we are signing a contract which is having maybe some $1 million, okay, the contract value, but then we acknowledge this fact that during the course of the entire project life cycle, things will change. Okay, and while those things are changing, we need to demonstrate a willingness to accept those changes. Okay, it might happen that I accept the change, and after the due diligence or after I do the impact analysis, maybe I come up with a proper response to the customer that whatever you are saying or whatever you are proposing, that is completely outside the preview of the project. That is completely outside the scope of the project. Okay, so this is what the Agile Manifesto is all about, and this is the heart of any Agile methodology, whether it is Scrum, Kanban, Lean, or Extreme Programming. Now, if anybody has any doubt, till this point of a time, he can type in, his query in the QA console, and I'll respond back to the query. So anybody has any doubt about these four statements, he can raise hand. He can ask whatever the doubts are. Okay. So as I said already, repeated. Now the slide which you can see on your console, the first one is individual and interaction over process and tool. So as it says, projects are undertaken by the people, not tools. Problems get solved by the people, not by the processes. Projects are accepted by the people. The scope is debated by the people. Definition of successfully done project is negotiated about the people. So the first one is, as I said, it's about the people. We are dealing with the people, and we are, of course, in the absence of the process and tools, things will go haywire. There has to be some discipline and processes enforce that discipline. But more than that, the people thing, that is basically the more important. The second point I already explained, working software over comprehensive documentation. So like it says that the comprehensive documentation without working software is absolutely useless. If we are not able to give a system to the customer which is not in a workable state, it is absolutely useless. Regarding, despite the fact that we have given them an immaculate documentation, it won't, serve any purpose. The third one is customer collaboration over contract negotiation, flexible and accommodating rather than fixed and uncooperative, that I already, explained. Better to be flexible and work towards the new goal as opposed to the goal that was originally stated. So, as I said, that there were few things which was written down in the statement of work, which was written down in the proposal, which was written down in the contract. That doesn't mean that those things, will stand good throughout the entire project life cycle. Things will change. Things will change because when the contract was signed, not everything was known to the customer. Okay, so things will change, and we need to be, more collaborative, in nature. Rather than beat up the customer with a change management process that is more of a change suppression process, should recognize at the start that things are going to change. It's a beautiful statement, I read somewhere, I was going through a white paper on Agile. It says that there is no change management process in the traditional project management. In fact, it is a change suppression process. As I said, that the immediate reaction of the project manager or somebody from the vendor side would be no, in case there are some change in requirement coming in from the customer, without even looking at that change, what this change is all about. It is more of a change suppression process. And the last one is responding to change over following a plan. So here the meaning is, it doesn't suggest that we abandon planning and just react to the changes. As I said in the beginning, that in projects which are done on Agile, now here we do planning. Okay, it is not that we do the work on the fly or we do the planning on the fly. There is well-written document. We plan about the project, we plan about the resources, we plan about the course, and we plan about a lot of other things. Okay, the planning is basically there. Now, what is basically trying to say that responding to change over following a plan, it doesn't mean that we just react to the changes. The planning is there, but here we need to acknowledge that the initial plan, which was basically drafted or created or published or signed off, it was done at a time where least amount of information was available. Okay. So this was about the four key values as far as Agile Manifesto is concerned. Now this Agile Manifesto, as I use 4 words in my presentation, The first one I use Scrum, the second one I use Lean, the third one I use Kanban, and the fourth one I use Extreme Programming. Okay, these are the different flavors of Agile. The most popular flavor in the market is Scrum. Second comes the Extreme Programming, and the third one is the Kanban, and the last one is Lean. Lean is basically more of a manufacturing thing. This methodology is basically more relevant to the manufacturing domain. Now, this manifesto is not very specific to Scrum. It is basically, in general, it covers all the flavors of Agile. Now, over and above the four key value which we just discussed, there are 12 principles under Agile Manifesto. These 12 principles are again relevant to all the flavors of Agile, not very specific to Scrum or not very specific to Extreme Programming. Okay, Agile Manifesto and the 12 principles of Agile. I'm again repeating. This is the heart of the Agile. And when you look at the final, when you appear in the final ACP certification conducted by PMI, you will see plenty of question in both the areas. Okay. Now I'll start with the principle. The first principle, it says our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through earliest continuous delivery of the valuable software. What it basically means, if you look at the traditional project management, which basically follows waterfall life cycle, okay, where the delivery is actually done only once, during the entire life cycle. We do the requirement analysis, we get into design, then we get into the construction phase, and then we get into the testing, and then we get into the deployment phase. So the customer is able to see the life system, only once, or maybe there are projects where you have multiple, releases. But here, what basically I'm saying is that once the design is complete, we get into the construction phase, and we don't go back to the design until and unless there is any, change in the requirement which significantly changes my design document or it changes my high-level functional specification. So in the traditional project management, usually, you have you have one major release, and that too happens after 6 months or maybe 7 months or maybe 9 months or maybe 12 months. Now the customer is able to see the value, to see the return on investment, only once. Okay, when the project is completely deployed in the production environment. But here in Agile, we believe in early and continuous delivery of the valuable system. So supposing if there is a project on Agile and the total duration of the project is 12 months, okay, so what we basically say that we would be delivering something which is in a workable state to the customer every month, so that customer is able to see the value, every month. He is able to take out the return on investment every month. The second one is welcome changing requirement even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer competitive advantage. Okay, so as I said that in case there are changes coming in from the customer, the mindset should be that I'll welcome those changes. Okay, I'll not be rigid. I will not be adamant that we have already done the planning. Now here I would like to bring in another thing which is I think worth mentioning here, that Agile is actually not about plan. Agile is about planning. Okay, in traditional project management, we do planning once in the beginning, and then we full stop, and then we get into the execution mode. But while in Agile, we do the planning multiple times. Okay, so assuming we have a project of 12 months, for 12 months we would be giving deliverable to the customer. Now when I say deliverable, I basically mean a life system to the customer 12 times in 12 months. Okay, and each month I'll plan. Okay, so there would be a planning done in the beginning, keeping in mind the overall picture of the project. That would be a high level plan, and then each month I'll get into the micro level details, micro level nitty-gritty So I'll do the planning every month. That is why it is said that Agile is not about plan, it is about planning. Okay. Deliver working software frequently from a couple of weeks to a couple of months with a preference to shorter time scale. Now, one very important dimension in Agile, as I said, that we would be delivering a vertical software system to the customer 12 times in 12 months. That means we will be doing planning at the start of every month. Okay. Now, the first month I get a planning for the deliverables which I would be delivering to the customer in that particular month. Okay. Now, once that delivery is done, and when I go to the second month, okay, there would be few lessons also. Okay. There are few things which, at the start of second month, when I look back and I see that these are the things, maybe I could have done in a much better way. So there is always a learning, which trickles down to the second month, to the subsequent month. Okay. So here, and how will you get that opportunity? So if you compare both the approaches, in traditional project management, you have that opportunity only once, and that too when the system is migrated to the production environment. Okay, the system is already there in the production environment, and after the system is breathing in the production environment, you see a lot of problems. There are a lot of bugs. So there is basically hardly any time to control the damage because the damage is already done. But here, since we would be delivering the software, we would be delivering the system to the customer on multiple occasions. That means there would be multiple opportunities to learn from the mistakes, which basically I committed in the previous month. So how would that be possible? That would be possible when I will be doing the delivery, when I will be delivering to the customer multiple times during the entire project life cycle. Okay. Anybody has any question? Whatever I have spoken so far, if anybody has any doubt, any query. Okay. The next one says business people and developer must work together daily throughout the project. Again, I'll compare it with the traditional project management. In traditional project management, the communication with the business community, with the subject matter expert, is usually happens when we are doing the requirement analysis. Okay, when we are trying to understand the requirement. And once that part is done, once that clarification has come to the vendor, that discussion stops there and we get on to the next phase. Okay, but here in Agile, since we would be delivering the system to the customer on multiple occasions, and as I said that we will be doing the planning on multiple occasions, that means that we would be having the discussions with the business people throughout the project. So there would be a discussion in the first month. In the second month, we would be having some requirement. We would be needing some clarification. We would be having some queries. We will talk to the business and we'll get the clarification. So here in Agile, the business people and the developers, they work together throughout the complete project life cycle. Okay. The next one is build project around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and the support they need and trust them to get the job done. Now, when we talk about Agile, I mean, I have seen I've seen people, as you know that nowadays a lot of organizations are spending, a good amount of money on migrating their entire system, onto Agile because of known problems in the traditional project management. And I've seen people putting in their papers the moment they come to know that maybe 1 month down the line, they would no longer be using waterfall methodology. They would be, working on Scrum, and they decide to part with the organization. And the reason is, Agile is about, the motivated people. Okay, Agile is about, the people who take ownership, Agile is about, having those people in the team who takes ownership, who feels accountable, okay. The people who do not need any spoon feeding, okay. Like if we talk about one flavor of Agile that is called as Scrum, there is no project manager, okay. There is, there are only very few roles in Agile. So if I talk about Scrum, we don't have any project manager. We have a role called Scrum Master, okay. The second role we have is the product owner. The third role, like we have, the Scrum team, and sometimes like we have the Scrum coaches also. So in Agile, in traditional project management and in Agile, one major difference, very interesting analogy. I would like to share here that when a army major, when he goes to the battlefield, he does not manage soldier. He leads the soldier. In traditional project management, the project manager, he manages the people. Okay, he manages the work. But Agile is not about managing. Okay, Agile is not about managing the people. Agile is not about managing, the work. Agile is about having, the people in the team who are self-organizing, who do not need any instruction from anybody, who knows what they have to do. Of course, there would be, a person called Scrum Master who would be an enabler, who would be a facilitator, who would be a coordinator. But in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say that the Agile, when we say Agile, and you are dealing with the people who are not motivated, 100% the chances are that the project will fail. Okay, so we need to have motivated people, and of course there should be somebody in the project team who would, try to resolve the problem in case if they have any. That could be about, anything. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. There is one of the very, very important principles in Agile. We don't believe in writing thousands and tons of mail, every day. Maybe the person is sitting next to me, and I'll write an email. If he's sitting next to me, the most preferable mode of communication is face-to-face communication. And then we have working software is the primary measure of success. I think this is the first time explaining that a software which is in a working condition, that is what matters, and that is the only a mechanism which will say whether we are on the track or we are deviated from the track. Okay, Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and the users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Agile is not about working 16 hours in the office. Agile is not about spending all your weekend in the office. The entire framework is designed in such a manner that whosoever is working on the project, they usually have a sustainable pace. Maybe 8 hours a day, maybe 9 hours a day. It is not fluctuating, significantly. That last week I worked 50 hours. This week, I'll be working 30 hours, and maybe the remaining week I'll be working, maybe 10 hours. So in Agile projects, we usually have, a sustainable pace. How do we achieve that? That is a separate discussion altogether. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances, agility. So the good architecture, the good architecture in the sense that the system should be robust, it should be, scalable in the future. So a good amount of emphasis is actually, put on to on the technical aspect of the system. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. This is a very important point. Now, there was actually a survey done, a few years back, and what basically came out that whatever system is delivered to the customer, and in case assuming that the system, it has maybe 50 features, okay. So the finding of the research survey was that out of the 50, 20% features are those features which are actually never used. So those features were written in the business requirement document, and the development team, they coded those features, okay, but then eventually those things were never used by the customer. So in Agile, we have means and mechanisms through which we identify and we address, only those items, in the first few months, only those items which are, kind of a skeleton, a bare minimum thing, or something which is the heart of the system, which would be, a backbone of the entire system. That is basically first addressed. So if you look at the entire project life cycle, in case if you are working on Agile, in the last phase of the project, usually you are working on those items which are having least amount of value to the customer. So the first, those requirements are addressed which are very, very critical to the customer, and then the priority keeps on decreasing. Okay. The next one is the best architecture, requirement, and design emerge from self-organizing team. As I said that in Agile we have self-motivated people who are, organized, who are smart people, and these are the people who give, the best architecture. These are the people who work on the requirement. These are the people who work on the design. Okay. And the last one is at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. Now, this is the one USP of any project on Agile, that we have plenty of opportunities wherein we can correct ourselves, wherein we have an opportunity to rectify some mistake. So you have many such opportunities, like in Agile, you have daily meetings, which sometimes happens in the morning, and sometimes it happens in the evening. Then at the end of the month, when we have delivered the partial system to the customer, then also we have the discussion wherein we see what went well and what didn't work well. Okay, so there are plenty of opportunities in Agile wherein we can look back and we can do the damage control, we can rectify the problem, we can correct ourselves, and then accordingly, we perform better. So like I gave you one example, but supposing we have a project and the entire duration of the project is 12 months, and we decided to deliver, the system to the customer 12 times, in 12 months. So at the end of each month, there will be an opportunity, there would be some brainstorming, some discussion which will happen, wherein we will get some input from the customer, wherein we will get some input from the product owner, wherein we will get some input from the Scrum Master. We will sit together and we will discuss that, okay, these are the things which we did pretty well, and these are the things wherein maybe, we could have done better. Okay. So these are, the 12 principles, and on this slide, it's an abridged, version of those 12 principles. I mean, it's a way how do you memorize those 12 principles. So, like the first one was deliver great software, welcome change, deliver frequently, work with business, motivate people, face-to-face communication, measure software done, maintain sustainable pace, maintain design, keep it simple, team creates architecture, reflect and adjust. So these are, the kind of a metaphors, and it helps you in memorizing those 12 principles. That was what I was actually supposed to talk about in this webinar. If anybody has any query, if anybody is not clear about any topic, any slide, any word, any statement which I have used in this presentation, Most welcome to all.